If anybody is familiar with emergency management in the state of Florida, we're broken up into regions. Region 5 is the center of the state, and that includes Seminole County, Orange County, Brevard, and others. And in that region, Seminole County is known as a mover and a shaker in emergency management. If you want to look at the newest practices being employed in emergency management, you can call Alan Harris at Seminole County, and Alan is going to share with you and give you all the material he's put together to help make it happen. He's a good friend and one of the best in the business, and we appreciate, from a county perspective, bringing Alan to share his thoughts as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Was that taped? I can give it to my boss. Appreciate it. Thank you. It was truly an honor. On behalf of myself and Seminole County, we want to thank you for allowing myself to be part of the peer review and to review your after-action report. Myself, Jonathan, Manny, we all gain a lot of knowledge from this. We are taking your strengths back to our communities, and in some places changing the ways that we do things, as well as some of the things that you're discussing changing. We're also discussing changing. Very interesting, as I read your after-action report and some of the documents, it was very interesting to see the similarities in our communities. All of us, I believe, in counties responded relatively well to Hurricane Irma. There were a lot of things that we thought we could do a little bit better or a little bit differently. Sarasota, though, I've had an opportunity to read quite a few after-action reports, and Sarasota County, I have to say, just was phenomenal coming together, building a one team, which Ed said in the video earlier, and just really did an amazing job. My job was to look at the communication, so I want to tell you about a person in Seminole County. Her name is Ms. Johnson. She's a 77-year-old woman. She lives in Sanford on First Street. Ms. Johnson's in a wheelchair. She has oxygen. She requires oxygen. She requires electricity to run a medical device. She has two cats, Tigger and Whatever, because the cat does whatever it wants. She adopted those cats from Animal Services. She needs help getting to the shelter. She goes to a medically enhanced shelter. And she needs help whenever that she has to go to the shelter. She's a widow. Her children live out of the state. Ms. Johnson doesn't exist, but we respond, we plan, we prepare for Ms. Johnson. So as I looked at your after-action report, I looked at it from an emergency management perspective, but I changed Ms. Johnson's name. It's Ms. Stanley. So Ms. Stanley looked at your after-action report here in Sarasota and how well you responded. And I think Ms. Stanley would be very proud of the public information through social media. You used Facebook, used Twitter, used all those different sites very, very well. The one thing that we would enhance upon, though, and it's an enhancement across the entire state of Florida, is people will gravitate towards certain pages. Remember, Ms. Stanley, she adopted from the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office Animal Services, so she follows that page. She doesn't follow the other pages, and that's county government to her. So providing the same information on all pages and all platforms is something that we have to do as a community. And when I'm talking about community, that's across the state of Florida. People gravitate towards the thing that they want to see. We have to use other types of communication systems. The Integrated Public Alerting and Warning System, Emergency Broadcast System. Unfortunately, there's been a couple mishaps of those just recently, and we hope that that doesn't happen again. But when it is critically needed, we need to use that system. We've had ballistic missile events in Hawaii, tsunami just recently. Hopefully those will stop so that our community doesn't get those unusual tests that they shouldn't be getting. But we can integrate and use those systems. Nextdoor, a new social media platform that a lot of neighborhoods are now using to communicate. And I see some heads shaking, so you may even be part of your Nextdoor community. If you aren't, I would encourage you to be part of your Nextdoor community. I find out about all the stuff in the neighborhood from my Nextdoor account. Seizing the opportunity to use all social media platforms, as many as we can. But that requires some depth in staffing, right? Now, instead of just sending out the press release, we have to do the press conference, we have to do the website, which y'all did an amazing job on the website. making sure the Citizens Information Call Center has enough people to answer all the phone calls, that it's adequately staffed, that it has the same information that's on the website, that's on the government television station, and on every single page of the social media for all the county and city web pages. And that's a lot of web pages in Sarasota County. I did a real quick search. There is a lot of pages. Between all the municipalities and all the county and all the sheriff's office pages, that is a lot of pages. So making sure, because Ms. Stanley doesn't know. Ms. Stanley is attached to that one page, and she thinks that's government, and that's where government's going to come from. Employee communication. This is interesting because we had the same issue. And we're going to change things too. We're going to do things differently in my community. On June 1 is the beginning of hurricane season. That's when employees need to be prepared. All employees are essential, right? No employee wants to be considered non-essential. At least I wouldn't want to be considered non-essential. All employees are essential. We are public servants. So public servants mean that we will respond to disasters whenever there's a disaster. September 11th, in New York City, librarians were working. This doesn't. It's not a new concept. Now there's of course excused absences and things like that. Medical issues, taking care of a sick or a parent or a child or something like that. Certainly understandable. But all employees are essential employees, and how we communicate with employees is incredibly important. Giving them plenty of notice that they need to be prepared. On June 1, hurricane season starts. You should be prepared then. 1 week out from the storm, of course, here comes a big hurricane. It's really looking big. You saw some of the newscast already. It was in Cuba. It was actually even further than Cuba, and they were already talking about it on the news. That's the time that we push out messaging to our employees. You need to be ready. When this disaster gets here, let's go ahead and make sure that you have a plan, because you're a public servant. You may be called to work. Because we may have to open all the shelters at the exact same time, and if we do, we need you here. Otherwise, we don't open shelters, and lives don't get saved. Or we have a whole bunch of people on the road trying to get to the nearest community that has an open shelter, and we don't want to do that as a hurricane is bearing down on the state of Florida. I have to thank Sarasota County. Seminole County actually borrowed your emergency roll plan and enhanced it slightly. We wouldn't have the E-roll, emergency roll plan, if it wasn't for you all. So we appreciate Sarasota providing that. In fact, we've exchanged plans quite a bit over the years. So I'll grab something of Sarasota's and we'll modify it, and we'll give something to Sarasota and they'll modify it. We're a sister community. You may not even know that, but we are. So we provided a lot, but we received that. All employees are E-roll. All employees have E-rolls. All employees have emergency rolls. Because during a disaster, we may have to use everybody. We may have to have a points of distribution. We normally don't have a points of distribution division of public works. We may have to open up sandbags. We don't have a sandbag division. I don't think you have a sandbag division of public works. We have to staff shelters. We don't have a shelter division of emergency management. We may have to open up a volunteer reception center. There's no volunteer reception center division of community services. We may have to open up a donation site where donations come in. We don't have a donations division. That has to be staffed during an event. Now we can do that with volunteers too. And as Terry mentioned earlier, engaging our nonprofits and faith-based organizations right now is very, very important. There used to be a saying at our conferences every once in a while, and people would come in and they say, you know, our senior leaders, they ask, what do we do when there's no hurricanes? Well, what does the military do when there's no war? We plan, we train, we exercise, we coordinate, we get the nonprofits on board. A hurricane will happen. In my community, a hurricane's going to hit this year on August the 1st. That's what we're planning for. We expect it to hit on August 1st. We're planning for it to hit on August 1st, but it's coming in on the other side, so don't worry. It's coming in through the Volusia County, Brevard County line, which is our worst case scenario, but we're planning for that. We're planning for it to be hit on August 1st. I hope August 1st passes, September 1st, October 1st passes. Oops, but we're planning it for August 1st. So I would put that into you as well. The hurricane season is only a few months away. You've already made a lot of progress. You're going to talk about some of that progress, but just keep moving in that direction and improving. And I really loved reading the document. There were a lot of strengths in here, some that I'm bringing back to my community that we didn't do. And some of the things that you identified were exact things that we identified as well. It's very interesting to see that from community to community. So thank you all for the opportunity to review your plan.